Welcome to the Dice Tower, a series of video reviews about board and card games. Here are your hosts, Tom Vassell and Sam Healy.
Hey folks, I'm Tom Vassell.
I'm Z Garcia.
Put an aquarium up there. That's not the sea. I'm Sam Healy. What's up?
Well, it's a microcosm of the sea.
Ooh, now that's pretty cool.
All right. So
Yeah.
today we're taking a look at the game called Otys, which really is not the best name for the game.
Otys.
But the theme is good. In fact, Z and I both had this on our anticipated games from Essen because the theme is like set in the future.
That. Largely because of
Because
that.
of the pig show.
And it's actually unfortunate because that is like the biggest picture in the game.
It's the
There's
best picture in the
yes,
game, right?
I mean, no, I don't want to get ahead of myself, but there's more artwork on the cover than the rest of the game that you'll see soon enough.
So the game is set in the future, and you are deep sea divers, and oceans have taken over the whole world, and so you are going underneath and trying to find technology and whatever from the past. Plays like this. So this is the center board here, which has a store and a couple other things going on. Each player is going to have their own player board with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 slots here for divers to go down. They're going to have 8 divers in total. One player goes first, and essentially the game is going to be about one player needs to get to 18 points first or have the most points on the round where someone got to 18 points. The way you get points is on your turn, you're going to pick one of these 5 numbers here and slide it over. The first thing you do when you slide over any particular number, you're going to get the bonus associated with that number. The bonuses are on the board up here. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I slid over number 3, which allows me to pay 2 credits to upgrade one of my divers. This one lets me use a diver's ability twice. This gives me a credit. This gives me a battery. This lets me have one of my numbers back. Now, none of that really might make sense to you, but there are 2 kind of currencies in this game. There are credits, which you're going to be using to buy things, and batteries, which you're going to use to manipulate your divers. But anyway, just understand that when you move the number, first you get the bonus. You then get to do whatever the diver says. Now, many of the divers are very basic. This one here, when you use him, will take a white cube from the supply and put that white cube in wherever the area was. This one does the same thing with a black cube when you've used them. This one here, green cube, this one here, a blue cube. This one here lets you take some contracts and keep them, or he can use the ability of someone else in the slot they are, but those both cost a credit to use. This guy lets you move over one of your engineers or move down one of your engineers for a credit. And this one here lets you take one of the bonus tiles that's associated in the same number where he's at. These bonus tiles are going to do 2 things. They're going to give you a special thing right away, like this gives you a blue or a green cube. And then they also will make finishing projects there more lucrative as time goes by. So the best thing to do now is to figure out what we're aiming for. And that's these 3 cards up here. These are projects that people can complete. That's what the colony needs. So the colony needs 2 whites and a black, a green, a white, a black, and a blue, or 3 different colors. So if you happen to have those in one of your spots, so let's say in the bottom spot, I get another white and a black. Even if I had, let's say, a blue there too, I can complete this one. I would discard the 2 whites and a black because that's what's needed, and then I would get 3 victory points. This one here gives you 4 victory points, a battery, and a credit. This one gives you 2 victory points and a battery. If I had taken one of those bonus tiles, whenever you finish something, this one would give you an extra point every time you do it, while this one would give you 2 extra credits every time you finish a project there. So the game is about manipulating and getting those cubes down to the projects that you need. When you use the bonus over here of upgrading your divers, you're going to be able to upgrade them to their other side. So this guy here will now give me a black cube and a battery. But you can't keep using the same guys over and over. See, every time you move a number over and use that diver, first of all, that number comes down here to the bottom. You don't get that number back until you fill up all these spots. Now, if you move this guy over, you'll be able to bring him back more quickly. Also, the diver will go to the very top and push everyone else down. The only way to keep the diver from doing that is to pay a battery. You can always keep the diver in the same spot. But this 3 is not used. Let's say I use the number 2. That would come down here. And then this guy would come and move around. But you also each have an X. An X can be used at any time. You put an X in any number and move it over. And then that will come down. So it's like having a wild. And in fact, there are some ways to get extra X's, but these are one-time uses. Whenever you use an X, the order of these is going to change. The bonus tiles are going to move each time an X, which will kind of shake things up and change how things work. So that's it. Every time you upgrade someone, you will also get a victory point, but most of your victory points are going to come from filling out those contracts and those cards. Some people let you draw your own card. You can keep this until you can complete this contract and get the points and other benefits from it. You could also, one of the divers lets you buy and trade from this store, which is for 1, 2, or 3 credits, depending on it. And you can even sell a cube if there's no color of that type in the store for a victory point itself. This will continue round after round until one player gets to 18, or until all the players, or if more than one player gets to 18, then whoever has the most points at the end of that round is the winner of the game. One important thing that I should mention is that
Oh, here's that part again.
batteries can also be used to move your divers up and down before you move them into place.
Ooh.
And depending on where your technician is on the side, they can move up and down farther. That's a pretty important thing. Thought that should be clarified.
Addendum.
Yeah, well, you know,
There's
that
a
guy,
lot of little rules in this game.
There are.
Which, interestingly, if we're going to talk about it, is one of the things I was not expecting. You know, the
Right.
game I figured would have this, maybe a push your luck aspect to it, maybe a set collection aspect to it. Partly that's there. But this idea of turn a tiny little gear over here, which then turns a slightly bigger gear, which then turns this whole thing, and something falls off of that, and I grab it and I go, technology cube is white. It's not what I was expecting. You know what I mean? It's like, that cover does not make me think that game.
True.
and I'll jump in there. I really do like the game. Okay,
Well, dude, spoilers, man. You gotta save it. You gotta save it.
But I was disappointed that the theme is barely there for me.
Yes.
There's divers, and yes, there's some moving up and down. But what am I collecting? You know, I was like expecting to turn a card over, and there's the torch from the Statue of Liberty, and here's
Yes.
an old radio, and they call it something, and that's not. You're literally collecting cubes to complete sets, which is a fine game. Again, I like the game, but the theme promised me something that is not actually there.
I have to agree with that 100%.
Well, I guess I'm for the sake of
We were more excited than you, though.
For yes, that's true. For the sake of sounding like I'm just being argumentative, I was actually thinking the exact opposite thing this morning on the way to work. I was thinking the more I thought about this theme, it actually is thematic. Yeah, you're just bringing back the cubes, but the cubes represent things that are thematically true. I mean, if you're going on this, spelunking or diving expedition to find stuff to bring back to the person who is, the junkyard or what have you, the scrapyard, and you're bringing all these things back to make money off of them. You're going to bring back old busted things from the past. You're going to bring back scrap metal that can't be used for anything else other than scrap metal.
No, I get it, but I almost wish they didn't have cubes, that they had little
I get that, but it's.
tokens.
I get that there's a level of thematic disconnect because it's just cubes. But if you look past that veneer, so to speak, it is actually pretty thematic because you have to use
like
all
in
of
the
these
Twilight Zone
different
here.
mechanisms to represent what you're doing. I mean, you can only stay down there for so long unless you've got a battery pack air compressor or something like that. I was thinking about that too. Think about that. You're like battering some air making thing to stay down longer. It's like you're being. It's just, I don't know. It just struck me as funny.
Well,
these ballooned up like divers that are. I don't know. Just.
Well, let me ask you this then, because of the theme, which I was surprised on your opinion on, but this game is also essentially a puzzle. I need to get a black, a white, and blue on this thing.
Yeah.
I need to move this guy down and then do this. Then I need to keep him down, or I need to do this guy so that this guy moves down automatically. Right. What did you think about that? Because you're usually not a big fan of puzzle-style games.
No, I'm not. And that's probably one of the lowest parts of this game for me, is that puzzly aspect of it. I think that's I think that's more of a thematic disconnect than, diving to get all these different things that are just represented by cubes. Because, I mean, usually diving, there's a lot more that goes into just diving and finding out what's there. There's a whole lot of research that goes on.
Well, but you did just say you're okay with the
cubes
stuff being abstracted, but not the diving?
No. I'm not saying that it's abstracted. I just think that it's... I don't think that the puzzle represents the research that goes in. I think that's more of a disconnect than the cubes are.
Okay.
That's all I'm saying.
Well, jumping back for just 1 second, and I'll talk about the puzzle in one minute. The theme for me in most games is largely the pretty pictures. Okay.
Yeah.
That does it for me. That's why I feel let down. I think the cubes representing other things is fine. Tons of games do that. But why, like Tom said, are those cards that you then flip over and ask you for 2 white cubes and a green cube, why do they not show you a picture of an awesome thing you found,
Artwork is expensive?
Yeah, but I wish that they would have added that in. I think it would have pushed the game towards a more cohesive package that fits that cover. Anyway, having said that, the puzzle is obviously my favorite part. I'm a huge fan of puzzly games, and I loved the manipulation of the system. Being able to, again, push a thing and something happens over here. And it takes a little getting used to, and it's certainly a puzzle with a lot of odds and ends. Any little thing you do, you push this over and then you trigger this power up here, then you can buy a battery, then this guy does a thing, and then he surfaces, or not. You can spend a thing to not make him surface, or you can shift him before you push the button, and there's a lot to the puzzle. But it is engaging and clever, and I enjoyed it.
I guess one of the things that I don't like most of the time with puzzly games is that usually you're restricted to what you have in front of you. Mm-hmm. As per figuring out how that puzzle works to your benefit. Okay. And one of the things that I like the best about the puzzly aspect of it is that you have that one dude, I can't remember if he's a spy or what he is, but you can use him to use somebody else's dude that's in that same row. Right. And I liked that player interaction part of it.
Right.
And so that made it feel less like this truncated puzzle in front of me, and it was more like, okay, how can I use that dude in the right time on this part of the board or part of the game? And that's what made it feel like, I guess, less puzzly, although it is puzzly. Mm-hmm. That made it feel less puzzly for me because I wasn't restricted to what I had in front of me. I could also use that dude over. Oh, well, I could use him too. That kind of thing.
It's got a little interaction, which is nice. Yeah. I thought that was a great touch. It's a nice touch, and it helps to keep you from basically just not looking up the whole game.
Right.
I think it also helps that the puzzles themselves, I think this game very clearly rewards good play, but it's not hard to play. So what I mean by that is I'm trying to solve, and I need to get 3 cubes of a different color to do this one. That's not that hard. Yeah. You can pull that off. Now, will you do it as efficiently before someone else? But even if someone else beats you to it, you're going to accomplish some things in this game. So you might not win. You'll get whooped probably by someone who's better than you at figuring the puzzle out, but you don't feel like you're doing nothing.
Right.
You can even get your own private things, and then nobody can stop you from doing those.
Right.
So I feel like for someone new, it's like, oh, I don't know what to do. Well, I guess I'll take a cube. Okay, that's good, right? Take the cube, start building from there. You got to, look at the things that are out there. And I felt the game was good about that. Sure, having different bonus styles. By the way, all those bonus styles I didn't show you could be flipped to other bonuses.
And some of those, and there's some great powers on the alternative sides of those. So
I also like the fact that you can upgrade your divers, and then they do cooler things, but you can get too caught up in that sort of thing.
Yeah, if you forget the ultimate goal and you just want to see everything sort of maxed out, then you're sort of focusing in the wrong place. Yeah, I like that. It's a balancing act, and it tackles all of those things well.
Somebody getting a goal before you that you were working towards doesn't really hurt that much. I found as I was playing the game that even when somebody went and got something that I was about to get on my turn, whatever got flipped over to replace it was pretty close, if not straight on the same thing anyway, so it doesn't hurt you that bad.
And I do like that you don't need an exact resource match, as in extra stuff would deny that clump being a possibility,
That would
right?
actually be really annoying.
That would be punishing.
Right.
So I like that. That's fine. You're right. If I'm working towards something massive and it goes away, hey, I got a good enough variety of cubes sitting right here that I can probably score something.
Yeah.
Soon.
I remember getting those secret goals like you were talking about, and the ones that I got were like, never going to get those. So I just put them aside and I pretty much forgot about them.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I could have probably worked towards them.
You also could
I
draw
didn't really
4
need
and keep
to.
1,
Yeah.
which means you can pick.
Yeah,
really.
but
Yes.
when I drew, there was not that big of a
I took those big ones too, and I was like, I can do this.
Nope.
You're
All
right.
right. Overall, I like the game. I'm going to give it 1 sunken statue thumb up. I think it's fun. I feel like the theme could have been stronger for me. I also feel like this box, nice big box, the game feels a little smaller than the box. I don't know how else to explain it.
Yes, absolutely.
That's not a bad thing again. So my expectations might be tempering this, but I enjoyed it. I like the puzzle aspect. I like collecting the cubes and all. So it was fine for me. So 1 sunken statue thumb up.
Well, I think I liked it more than that. One thing that we didn't talk about that I'm going to use now are the boards, the player boards, and the fact that they were like chiseled out and things stuck in it, and even the sides where everything was floating on the sides were actually chiseled out on the underside.
Which works really well when you notice that.
Exactly. I mean, it's just really...
Well, on a flat surface, it would work nicely. If you got sort of a felt finish, it might be a little trickier.
Right, but I mean, I really, that's one of the things that made the game pop for me, was the detail that was put into the player boards. So, I mean, I don't think it's the greatest game of all time, but at the same time, I really enjoyed it, and I'm going to give it 2 thumbs up, probably around, I'd say around a 7.5 to 8 out of 10 for me. So I really did like it.
Yeah, and I feel about the same way, so I'm also going to give it 2 diving helmets up. Again, it's that idea, and this is the main thing that I would say to anyone watching the review. If you've seen the cover, you're expecting one kind of game, and you get something else, it's just going to take a play or 2 to readjust that thing. It seems to be a trend.
Yeah.
You know, games like, and this happens to be on my head because I just talked about it, like Libertalia is a card game in a big old splashy box. Abyss, even more so, just a card game.
Yeah.
And this kind of follows that trend of giving you something that looks great on the shelf. It's real splashy, but it is a small game.
I got it.
You know, and once you are okay with that, I think you'll start to enjoy it more, you know. So yeah, I enjoyed it. It's a great design. It's puzzly. It's exactly what I like in most games. I like a puzzle, you know, and this gives me that.
Well, that's Otys, folks. Definitely one that you want to check out. I think it's certainly unique and interesting. Doesn't feel like many other games.
Yeah.
Until next time, I'm Tom Vassell.
I'm Z Garcia. Thank you.
Sam Healy. See you on the flip side, folks.
Flip side.
Oh!
Thanks for watching our review today. For more information about board games, as well as the #1 board game audio podcast, check out Dicetower.com for reviews, interviews, and more. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower.